G'day people, I'm Sharon and welcome. My mum and grandmother taught me how to use a bodkin when I was very small. And if you learn how to do something when you're very small, it's often hard to work out why other people can't just do it. So today I'm trying to explain, without you being with me, how to use a bodkin. I've made a demonstration piece here where my casing is made of plastic, so you can actually see what's going on inside it while I use my bodkin. If I wanted to put ribbon through here, I put it through the eye of the bodkin and pull it down to the bottom. Even though ribbon is not particularly thick, it should actually stay in there, especially when both pieces or both sides of that ribbon are being pulled around. It shouldn't come out. I take that one out and put some elastic in through the eye of the needle or eye of the bodkin and pull it down. That is very well in there, it's not going to come out. If I'm doing this for real, the other end of my elastic I'm going to pin to the fabric somewhere near the opening. And I do that very deliberately, because what you don't want is to get halfway through putting your elastic around the casing and have this end go inside. We've got to be able to tie this end or join this end to the beginning of the elastic when we get back here, so we've got to make sure that doesn't disappear into the casing. I've deliberately made 4 different kinds of seams that you might come across. It's possible to do each one. They're going to get progressively harder, but the chances are you won't think about what kind of seam you're doing in terms of elastic until you get to the elastic stage. Let's see how they all work out. I go in through the hole here, my opening, hold that and pull inside. The way bodkins work, I'm holding the back of it, push the front through, then grab the front and pull the fabric off the back. This is my first kind of seam. It's an overlocked seam and it's going in the same direction as my bodkin, and it's really easy to go through the middle of that. So move things around, push the bodkin, grab the front of it and pull the fabric off the back. Push, hold, pull. Push, hold, pull. Now I'm coming up to my next seam. This one is also overlocked, but instead of the overlocking going in the same direction that I am coming along with my bodkin, it's going in the other direction, and that means I can get stuck. I can get stuck here between the top and the seam. I can get stuck underneath there between the seam and the bottom fabric. I need to go in between them, and this can take a little bit of fiddling. It's not usually a lot of fiddling if it's an overlocker, because those seams are only about 6 mils or 1/4 of an inch wide, and if you push hard enough they're probably going to fold in the direction you want them to go anyway. So we're through that seam, hold the front, pull the back. Push, hold, pull. Push, hold, pull. Push, hold, pull. Now I'm coming up to a seam that I've sewn with a sewing machine, and I've pressed it open. You'll often find in commercial patterns that they tell you to do this. So this is one that you could very well come up against. Once again, I have a situation here where my bodkin can come up between the plastic on the top and the plastic that is part of the seam. I can have it go between the two pieces of fabric on the bottom. I have to find my way between the two. And I haven't found it yet. There we go. It's a lot easier when you can see through. But you can see that is more complicated to get through, and it's made worse by the fact that these seams being open, that's about 1.5 centimetres or 5/8 of an inch. So there's more space for you to get caught on. Let's keep going. Now this here is the last one, and this is the worst one. It's the 1.5 centimetre or 5/8 inch seam again, but they've both been pressed in the one direction, and now I've got between my back fabric and where I need to go, there are two pieces of fabric here. So I could end up with my bodkin going down there or there, and I still won't be able to get in. And there's the same problem with the plastic. The plastic is also got two layers of plastic pointing in the one direction and the one that's over the outside. So essentially there are 4 layers in here, and I've got to find my way in between them. And that was lucky. Not only was it lucky, but of course it's easier to do because it's plastic and I can see through it. This is quite a difficult thing to do. What I recommend, if you're getting to the point where you're making a casing for an elastic and you've got this sort of situation, trim off some of the fabric in here so that it's not such a big, huge hole for you to accidentally go into. We're coming back to the beginning. And pull it through. Because this was pinned here to start with, I'm now able to get the bodkin off, and I'm going to pin these together. If this was the right size and it was a real garment, I would cut it off and probably tie it with this sort of elastic. If it's a wider elastic, you might want to sew things together with a zigzag. That's how you put elastic into a casing. The other thing you might want to do, however, which could be a bit more difficult, is if you've got something that is hard to get into your bodkin. How do you do that? If you're learning something today, please give me a thumbs up. This piece of cord will actually go through here. And down into the bodkin. If you have got a much larger piece of cord that won't go through the hole and down into the bodkin, you can join the larger piece to something a bit smaller, use the bodkin to go through the casing, and then use whatever you've attached to the front to pull this cord through the casing. Similarly, if you've got a thick piece of elastic, sometimes when you go to put it through the bodkin, that part of it works fine. It's a bit hard to get through. And go down there. It's not going to come out, but this is now too big to fit through your casing. What can you do with that? Because it can't handle, the casing is not big enough for the doubled over bit. What you can do, zigzag some ribbon or something onto the beginning of it so that you've got something that will go into your bodkin, and it could even help zigzag the two sides onto that elastic, because then that there will not be folded over as you're trying to get it through the casing. Cut a little bit off, or cut it off here, and you've only used a little bit of ribbon to get it through, but it's meant that you can get that wide piece of stiff elastic through your casing. The main reason I want to use a bodkin and not a safety pin is that I don't like getting stabbed, and there is nothing on the bodkin that is going to hurt me. Bodkins are not very expensive, but they are great things to have in your sewing kit. I'll see you next time.